This week, we continue learning a little PHP in order to get information from one page to another. I wanted to start by showing you, this is my XAMPP directory, and within it there is htdocs, and then I made another folder called Lecture5. So instead of having a bunch of miscellaneous programs, you could, if you wanted, make yourself a folder to keep your week-by-week labs in. So within here, I made some examples for you. And the first one was one from last week. So let us go there for a minute. In this example, we have two text boxes on our page, on our initial page, and a submit button. Let's take a look at those input boxes, those text boxes. They have different names. Right now I'm not using any IDs, so the name of the first one where I collect the name is username, and the second one is email. When we load this page and click on the submit button, it will go to x1 example1.php, which we can look at here. And we collect our username. So this is the name of that text box, username, and the other name of the text box was email. And get that information and put it into a variable. This is a PHP variable. Almost any name is okay as long as it starts with the $sign. So declare some variable, and it's $_post. So this is collecting the value that is in the text box called username. It's important that you understand what you are collecting. You are collecting on this line 14 here, you are collecting the value that is in the text box called email and putting it into str email. And then this is just throwing it out into a table. So using the print method, so print and then the value of the variable str username, and printing the value of the variable str email. So if we want to print the value of the variable, we have to make sure that that is PHP processing, which means we have to have the chevron question mark PHP at the beginning and the question mark closing chevron at the end. Well, that was given to you last week. Moving on to radio buttons. Here we have two. Now the name of each of these radio buttons is the same. It is food. We can only have one of them checked. The value are different. The values are different. So the value of the first one is banana, the value of the second one is orange. That has nothing to do with the word that is written at the side of the radio button. It's its value that is important, because it's the value that then gets transferred onto the next page. So let's run that one. And I see, what is your favorite food? Incidentally, you can see here that I'm running it from that Lecture5 folder. So what is your favorite food? And we had banana checked initially. Let me just check orange. And on our next page, it says our favorite food is orange. There we go. Your favorite food is orange. But I had one checked initially because when I went here, I started out with it checked. What happens if I don't start out with one checked? Let me just save this and run it again. So now they're not checked. And supposing I forget to check one. Well, now I have a problem because it's undefined. So I'm trying to get something, but it wasn't defined. So I have an error on my page, which is never good. So better to make sure that one of these is checked. So checked is true. So those were radio buttons. And because with a radio button, they're all the same name, when I pick it up on my next page, I just pick up the value of that name. So the name of the radio button was food, and I'm picking up that value and putting it into a variable that I called favFood, which I can then print on my page. I don't need to say print your favorite food because that's just HTML, but the value of the variable favFood I have to put in PHP. Again, I'm picking up the value of food, and if I go back to my other page, food is the name of the radio button. Now drop down menus operate the same way because it's only one option, and so you have a similar situation to the radio buttons. But the place you don't have a similar situation is with checkboxes. So let's look at checkboxes. Here we have 3 checkboxes. Now checkboxes, they each have a different name. So different name, different value. And this is just the the words apple, orange, and peach, which are displayed here. That's just HTML. But the important things are the values of the checkboxes and the names of the checkboxes. Let's see what happens when we submit it. And here I am picking up the value of the checkbox called A. You remember that was the name A. So I'm picking up the value of that checkbox and putting it into a variable called apple. And the one called O I'm putting into a variable called orange, and P goes into a variable called peach. And then I'm going to print on my page you like, and then in PHP I'm going to print the value of apple. I'm going to print the value of this checkbox, and then I'm going to print the value of the checkbox called whose name is O, and then I'm going to print the value of the checkbox whose name was P. And if we go back again, we'll see that the values were apple, orange, and peach. So let's run this one. And let's say we like them all. There we go. It doesn't look very pretty, but at least we got the 3 words on the page. But let's run this again, and let's just say I like apples. And now I have a problem, because it did say I like apple, but it's got 2 undefined variables. Actually, on lines 15 and 16, let's look at what's on lines 15 and 16. And there were these 2 lines here. So the problem was that checkboxes called O and P did not have a value. Let's look at those checkboxes. So the ones named O and P didn't have a value, and that's true. I didn't check them off. So we have to figure out how to deal with this. We cannot allow this to happen. If I'm going to ask my user which do I like, I have to be prepared for not every checkbox to be checked. And I do that here. And here is my the way that I get around that situation. Excuse me. So not picking up O and P for the minute. I'm just going to deal with apple. So I need some code, and the syntax is if, and then in parentheses is set, I-S-S-E-T. If is set, and then this is exactly how I picked it up before. I left this here so that you can see it's the $_post and the name of the checkbox. I'm going to get it out of there. Okay, so if it's set, so if it's checked, pick up the value. So now I can pick up the value. Why am I printing LI here? Because I made a list on my page. So this is a list item, and I'm printing HTML, so I have to put it in quotes, and there is my tag in quotes. And then I want to print the value of this variable, apple. And then I need to print my closing li tag, and that curly brace goes with this curly brace as the end of my if, and then the end of my PHP, and then the end of my list. So let's look at that. Let's save that, and let's look at that. Run. Fine, there's my list started out. If I don't say apple, I don't have a list, but I don't have those error messages either. I could go back here and copy this. And I'm going to look at, what was the other one? Orange. I'll just call it by some short name. The other one was peach, and it was a P. Okay, so let's try one of these. Well, let's try all of them. And there's our complete list. 2 of them. And none of them. It still says you like, which is not good, but at least I'm not getting error messages on my page because I have checkboxes that have not been checked. Moving on. If you look at the bottom of the screen here, you can see what the page will look like when it is launched. I put it in a table just to sort of keep things together. 3 checkboxes, apple, orange, and peach, and we're asked how many of each of these. So I have to worry about not trying to collect information when it's not there. So my checkboxes names are as they were before, A, O, and P, and the only other difference is that I've got input boxes. I call them num apples, num oranges, and num peaches. This is the page that goes with that. Again, I made a list here. So if the checkbox for apples is checked, then get its value. Also, so here is my curly brackets, everything that I do if that checkbox is checked. Find the number of apples, print the beginning and the end of my list item, and then print the num A, which is the number of apples, followed by the word apple. Maybe we should put an S on the end here. So let's run that one. This would be number 5. Let's just deal with apples. How many? 2. And then I wanted 2 apples. What's going to happen if I say I want 5 oranges? I'm expecting an error message. Well, I didn't get an error message. Why didn't I get an error message? Because I didn't try to pick up the value of the number of oranges here. I only tried to pick up the number of apples if apple was set. So again, all I have to do is copy and paste this. I'll just do oranges. No, if 2 work, then 3 also work. So we said 2 apples and 5 oranges, and there we go. I will say that this will bomb if I don't put any numbers in here. Let's just work with apple for a minute. So I wanted, and there's a nothing in there. It might be good to at least start out that the value of those text boxes with a 1. So at least we can say you wanted 1 apple and not just apples. How would we do that? We would have to go back to here and we would have to add a value. So now when we load the page, we automatically get a 1. We can change it. We can make it, 6. But when we load it, at least if we forgot to put anything in here, I want 1. Apples, unfortunately. But so grammatically not okay, but syntactically, code-wise, it's fine. So that, I think, is all that you need for your lab today, for your lab this week. Have fun.